All right, I'm John Gibson, CEO of Tripwire.
All right, and you guys are working on Maneater. So I guess my first question is, what made you decide to make a game about my ex-girlfriend? No, that's just a joke. This is a game about being a shark.
You know, really, the open world action RPG genre is a genre that we've always really liked. We're really inspired by games like the Far Cry series or Zelda Breath of the Wild. And we really wanted to be able to do something like that, but in a completely new and unique way. And, how many open world action RPG shark games were there? Until now, 0. Before now, 0. Now there's 1.
I know a lot of people are probably asking all sorts of shark-related questions and things like that, but I'm actually getting a vibe, like an Echo the Dolphin vibe. Like, it reminds me a lot of the Lost demo from the Dreamcast and stuff like that. You have a 3D environment, like underwater, where you're kind of exploring around. Like, was Echo the Dolphin like an influence at all?
I haven't heard anyone around the office mention Echo the Dolphin as an influence, but I could see, especially just that freedom of movement and exploration, because that's really a big part of Maneater, is that freedom of movement and exploring a world.
So you guys also mentioned like there's an environmental message to this as well, which was a big factor for Echo.
Yeah,
or is this more tongue in cheek?
Well, I think it's. I think we've put it in some of our trailers in the game. It's a lot more subtle. I think, like with most entertainment, if there is a message behind it, it's better to be subtle than just hitting people over the head with it.
Nice. I feel that. Now, one of the things I found interesting is like you were talking about the combat, and you're talking about it like it's a lot like sword fighting. There's like parrying and dodging and things like that, and you liked it unto Dark Souls. So is this the Dark Souls of shark open world RPGs?
Did you just ask me if this is Shark Souls?
Yes, I'm afraid I did.
So really, I would say that it has a shark. I'm not going to say Shark Souls again. It has a little bit of a Dark Souls flavor to the wildlife combat. We also kind of liken it a little bit to Punch-Out, the classic Nintendo and Super Nintendo game where each of the creatures that you fight has their own cadence and their own tells, and timing is important to the combat. We really wanted the wildlife combat to be more interesting than just button mashing. But it's not as hardcore as a Dark Souls battle, but certainly, unless, if you're a teen and you want to go out into the deep ocean and battle some very big and scary things.
Yeah, this is, the first time we're able to get our hands on it, and I was really curious how everything was going to work and how everything was going to feel, and like how easy it was going to be to like pick up and play. But like, there's some nuances to combat, and there's some very expansive gameplay to it. But at the same time, like, once you're given the instructions and you know what you're doing, like you can just kind of get out there and do whatever you want.
Yeah, we really wanted it to be something that was really easy to pick up and get into, but then had a lot of depth and diversity to the combat. So, and also to let the players kind of set their own pace. If they wanted to be very aggressive and fight very powerful enemies quickly, once they become a teen and go out into the wide open world, they can go into wherever they want and fight whoever they want and face some real challenges. Or if they're the kind of player that just wants to explore and sort of buff up their shark and grow first, they can do that, and then they can go out and take on the world.
Nice. Now, one thing I thought was really intriguing is like you have this system where people are going to be able to customize their sharks and sort of play to different abilities and mix and match how they want. How early in development did you guys decide on that, and like kind of what influenced it? Like, was there like a barrier you guys were trying to get through in development or anything like that, or did it just come naturally?
So we knew very early on that we wanted the shark to be able to evolve beyond what nature intended. That was really kind of a core tenet of the game. And we started, I think, with the organ evolutions, where just components of your shark could sort of be upgraded or do different things, like the organ evolution that allows you to breathe longer when you go out of water and have that beach time snack. But as we watched people play the game, we really saw different playstyles were emerging. There was the people that wanted to just get in there and fight and ram into boats. And so we said, well, let's create a whole type of evolution that tailors to that playstyle and allows them to take it to a completely different place. So that was the bone evolution set. And as you saw demonstrated in our videos, you can smash through boats, you can ram, you're really kind of tanky. And then there were other play styles where we watched people play and they'll swim through the bayou or the rivers and they'll get 10 enemies chasing them and then they'll stop and they'll fight all 10 enemies. And that's really where the bioelectric body evolution came from, was because it's about crowd control and stunning lots of enemies. And then of course the shadow was for the people that want to play a little more stealthy. It's a bit like a vampire, and you can bite enemies and take their energy and gain health back. But also you have a special ability that allows you to slow time and really tactically pick people off.
Awesome. Now, one of the other things I really like is the narrative that you've created, where it's kind of like there's a documentary crew following around this like famous shark hunter, Scaly Pete, which is, by the way, an awesome name. Where did the narrative design come from? Like, did that come later on in development, or was that kind of like something you guys created early on? Because it is really tough to tell a story when you have, like, you're just an apex predator. You don't really have a dialogue of your own.
Yeah, so we knew that we wanted to tell a story. The gameplay came first, and then we just brainstormed ways that we could tell the story. I was a huge fan of the show Deadliest Catch, and I thought that was a really great way to tell a story. At first it came about like, well, this would be a great way to tell Scaly Pete's story, but then we thought, well, the shark can't talk, so a narrator is a great way to tell the shark's story as well. And it fits so well with this sort of wildlife, the sharks going around doing things, but then also you have this cantankerous character in Pete. We thought it was a really interesting way to tell the story.
Awesome. And then you guys got Chris Parnell to be like the main narrator for the game. How did that partnership come about?
Well, when we were thinking about the narrator, we didn't want the narrator to be slapstick. We really harkened back to some of our favorite movies with like Leslie Nielsen, like Airplane and Naked Gun, and how great he was about being funny, but being funny in a very straight way. And we saw Chris Parnell and we thought about him, and like, he's great at that. So we want him to be commenting about people's arms and legs getting eaten off, but in a super chill sort of way, like, hey, this is just kind of normal.
Like, did you guys ever think about doing the Jacques Cousteau thing? Like, was that ever like an angle you thought about approaching, or did it not play towards that straightforward aspect?
Yeah, we thought about the Jacques Cousteau thing. We thought about the David Attenborough direction, and we could have played it completely straight, but the little bit of comedic, like playing it straight with a little bit of a wink. It's really something that Chris Parnell was really well suited for. And when we reached out to Chris, when he saw the script, when he saw what we were making, he got excited about it as well. So it just really came together great.
Nice. Now, there's been a lot of hype around this game, and this is just the first time that we're actually seeing like any like hands-on gameplay. That's got to be an exciting moment for you, because like up until this point, like you guys have been rolling heavy on the hype train, but now it's like a chance for you to live up to that hype.
Yeah, and it's been an interesting journey, because one of the things I've been sharing today is, candidly, it was challenging to make Fun Shark gameplay. The pillars around it, the exploration, the RPG elements, those flowed out really naturally, but it took us a while to really nail the shark gameplay, especially with the wildlife, and then once we got that in place, it really just naturally everything came together, and we said, we're ready for people to get their hands on this. But yes, it's been super exciting. We've been waiting, a year and a half, almost 2 years, to let people touch it and see what they think, and seeing some of the reactions when some of the interesting things happen in the game has been very special today.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of this. How over it are you as far as the Hall & Oates jokes and the baby shark emails and all that stuff, though?
I was over the Hall & Oates jokes probably the second time I heard them. But the baby shark jokes I still make. So I don't think I'll ever get over that. I enjoy them probably just as much as anyone else.
All right. Beautiful. Well, Maneater, I certainly had a lot of fun with it today. I'm looking forward to seeing more of it. When are we going to see more Maneater?
May 22nd of this year, you'll be able to get your hands on Maneater.
Very awesome. All right. Thank you so much for talking with us today. And where can we find out more about Maneater?
Maneatergame.com.